Welcome to webwatchworld.com. This video will illustrate how to replace a bezel on a Vostok Amphibia. Please read the full review of the Vostok Amphibia on webwatchworld.com, along with the article on Amphibia Bezel replacement. This is the Ministry Case sailboat version of the Vostok Amphibia, and I'm turning it into a nice summer watch. I'm going to replace the stock bezel with this blue and red bezel insert and a new bezel from Dave Murphy. All the information you need is in the full webwatchworld.com bezel replacement article. It's pretty easy to remove the cheap-looking stock bezel from the Amphibia and replace it with Dave's Precision Machine Custom version. You buy the bezel and then choose from dozens of different styles and colors of bezel inserts, and you'll have a nice custom Amphibia. It's a fun project and pretty easy to do, and it really dresses up the watch. This is a brand new Amphibia, so first thing I'm going to do is trash the cheesy bracelet that comes with it. It's a little tricky because the lug trim piece blocks the spring bar ends. I use a metal spring bar removal fork tool. I always work from the back side in case I scratch anything. The Vostok spring bars are nice because they have a tiny ring to push on. So dig the tool down in there and push on the spring bar end, and the spring bar should pop right out. Next, I usually put a piece of plastic over the watch to protect it. This is the plastic bag that held the bezel. I use a snap-on case-back knife, but you can use pretty much any knife to remove the bezel. Slip the knife under the bezel and give it a bit of a twist, and the bezel pops right off. It's really easy to do compared to most watches. The only real trick to this project is swapping the wire from one bezel to the other. The wire gives the friction needed to hold the bezel in place when it's turned. The wire fits in a very narrow groove in the bezel, and you have to make sure it's evenly spaced all the way around, or the bezel might not go on properly. Here's a comparison of Dave's bezel with the stock Amphibia bezel. You can see Dave's is slightly thicker, and it has nicer serrations around the edge, and it also has the space machined out for the bezel insert. Work the wire into the new bezel, making sure it's even all the way around. Also, be careful when you're working with it because it can spring across the room and you'll probably never find it again. You may have to stretch the wire a bit before you can get it evenly inserted into the new bezel. This is also a good time to clean off the Amphibia case before you install the new bezel. The new bezel insert can be glued on at this point or beforehand. Check it first to make sure it fits inside the bezel before you break out the glue. Pretty much any metal glue will work. I had this 3M trim adhesive laying around, so I used it. I've tried contact cement, but the problem with it is that once you stick the two parts together, it's difficult to make any adjustments. This trim adhesive is very stringy, but it allows you to make sure the new insert is seated correctly, and once the glue dries, it's very easy to clean off the strings with your fingernail. Here's a look at the inside of the new bezel. Again, just make sure that the wire is actually in the tiny groove. It's not always obvious, and make sure it's even all the way around. Then set the watch on a hard flat surface and center the bezel over the crystal. Push down evenly on the bezel and you'll hear it snap on. It takes a bit of effort, as you can see, but if it doesn't go on, it probably means the wire isn't even in the groove, so check that again to make sure. It should snap right on. Once the bezel is on, check to make sure it's even all the way around the sides of the watch. Now for a new strap. I had a couple of blue straps laying around, and I thought about this blue silicone strap, but I think the color is too bright. I also had a black and blue polyurethane strap that's probably a bit overstyled for my taste, but it's comfortable and I figured I'd give it a try for my summer Amphibia sailboat. I use the spring bars that come with the Amphibia. Just push one into the strap, then I push the end of it to make sure both sides are even. Sometimes I'll put just a tiny bit of silicone grease on the spring bar to help it through. I always work from the back side of the watch when I'm installing a new strap, just in case I scratch anything. Put one side of the spring bar in the hole in the lug, then use a fork tool to compress the other end of the spring bar and work it into the hole. You should hear it snap into place. I think of the long end of the strap as the tail of the watch, always coming out the bottom or the 6 o'clock position. Repeat the process for the buckle end and you're all set. Now we have a nice custom Vostok Amphibia with a new bezel insert, and a new strap. The Amphibia is a rugged watch with a famous in-house Vostok movement. It has some remarkably well-engineered features, and it's a true dive watch, and I think the best wristwatch bargain in the world. For more information and a review of the Vostok Amphibia and on replacing the bezel, please visit webwatchworld.com. Thanks for watching my video.